Hi guys, it's Katie back with another episode of my vlog, and I thought today I would talk a little bit more about the stroke dimension and some of the lessons that I've learned so far on my journey through the stroke dimension. As I've said in previous episodes of my vlog, I'm an unschooler, I'm a lifelong learner, I'm always looking for ways to learn more, grow more, become a better, more well-rounded version of myself. So this gigantically traumatic, horrendous thing happened. Obviously, my husband had a stroke and was in the hospital for 3 months, and it was horrible. But inside of that horribleness, I made the choice to keep my eyes open and keep my ears open and pay attention to the lessons that the universe was presenting to me in the form of this super traumatic event. And there's a lot to learn if you pay attention, right? I've learned a lot about how our brains work and how that connects to how our bodies work. I've learned a lot about how hospitals work. I went into this not able to find my way around a hospital at all. And now I can walk into almost any hospital and immediately find where I need to go, what I need to do. I learned a lot about how physical therapy works and how occupational therapy works and how speech therapy works and how behavioral therapy works and a whole bunch of other things like that. But what I'm wanting to talk about today is a little bit kind of higher level stuff, more like life philosophy lessons, the real meat of everything. And there's a lot floating around out there that I've sort of tuned into from the stroke dimension. But today I want to talk about 3 very specific lessons that I've learned, which I think are universal and everyone needs to learn them. And of course, we probably need to learn them the hard way to actually get them to stick. But maybe through talking about this, I can provide a nugget of insight for you guys out there and help you guys with your own learning journey and getting to where you need to be eventually. So the first big lesson that I've learned here in the stroke dimension is you're not in control, which is a great big no duh for everybody. And I'm sure anyone who is a parent will immediately relate to the feeling of loss of control when your first child is born. You suddenly are like, whoa, I am definitely not as in control of things as I thought I was. And, other major life events like that. But obviously the stroke being such a big thing, being so traumatic, being such the rug got pulled out from under me. My whole life got turned upside down. There was 3 months where I had no idea what was going to happen, which direction things were going to go, how were we going to manage any of this? And as a person who's, I call myself like a recovering perfectionist or a recovering control freak, that was really, really, really hard for me to be completely out of control of the situation that was happening, and absolutely nothing I was doing personally could affect Sean's condition and how he was improving and all of that. I'm sure me going to the hospital every day helped him, right? There's obviously a positive effect to that, but nothing I was specifically doing was going to change what's happening here, right? We just have to ride along on this ride and do it, even though we don't like it, even though it's the worst ride I've ever been on in my life. I just have to do it. And so but that nugget of a lesson, like, I'm not in control. I'm not calling the shots here. I can plan. I can, try to direct things a certain way, but you never know when the universe is going to deliver you a stroke or some other medical event or a crazy car accident or whatever. You just don't know. And so you have, you kind of adopt a different mentality of, okay, well, I'm not in control of what's happening here. What I can be in control of is my reaction to what's happening. And that's something I try to teach my kids a lot, because obviously we're quite often thrust into situations that we don't want to be in or have to do a task that we don't want to do, but we have to do it. So again, my basic philosophy around that is not in control of the situation. Yes, I can be in control of my reaction to the situation. And that's a simple lesson, but it's also one of the toughest ones of all. We're not in control of our lives. And again, we can try, we can plan, we can make contingency plans even, and that's a really good idea. But you have to be able to let go and just kind of flow with whatever's going on, when something crazy is happening. And that was a very, very hard one for me. Again, as a former recovering control freak, that's been a really, really big one for the stroke dimension. Another really big one besides I'm not in control is I've really had to learn how to be patient and the value of patience. Everything moves slowly in the stroke dimension. There is just nothing happens quickly ever. And at first, I was very impatient. I was like, oh, it's going to take a year or 2 years for Sean to recover, and we got to get going and get on this track so that we can get recovered, and kind of, that type of energy. And I realized very quickly that that was just me spinning my wheels without actually going anywhere, and that it wasn't helpful at all. And actually taking a different tack and going the opposite direction and just saying, you know what, this is going to take a really long time. I need to be really, really patient. I need to just slow way down with Sean and just be patient and wait for things to happen. And that was a really hard one also, but I feel like I did it. I awarded myself the Most Patient Person 2019 award last year, and then Sean actually had a trophy made for me. I should have brought it in here when I was doing my vlog, but patience is a virtue, as they say. And I just used to be trying to do so much, trying to cram so much into the day, constantly running from one project or one meeting or one thing with the kids to the next, and just go, 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 go. And every time something would slow me down, it would get me really frustrated because it'd be like, oh, my whole plan is getting like knocked off kilter. And I realized through the experience of the stroke dimension that that's just a horrendous way to be living your life. And it's much, much better to give everything more time than it needs and just be patient and let things go a little slower than you maybe wanted them to. But if you're not rushing, you can pay more attention. If you're not rushing, you can be more calm. If you're not rushing, you're not going to get as frustrated if someone's going really slow in front of you and you perceive them as being in your way, like, in traffic or whatever. And it's a complete flip of my mindset, and it's been really, really good. And this is something I don't know if I could have gotten to without going through the stroke dimension. One of those things where I could try to tell myself to slow down all day long, but really being made to slow down by the life circumstance, it just totally changed the way that I look at things, the way that I approach things. And related to being patient, the other major lesson that I've learned from the stroke dimension is to not try to do more than one thing at a time, not multitask. The deal with the stroke dimension is it's very much one step at a time, one day at a time, one thing at a time, little tiny baby steps that are going to add up to climbing that mountain of getting through the stroke dimension and getting Sean to his recovered state and all of that. And each thing, we just focus on that thing when we're doing it. If we're going to go to physical therapy, first we focus on getting out of the house and getting into the car. That's its own task. Then we got to drive there. That's a pretty easy one. Then we got to get out of the car, into the wheelchair, into the PT office, all that registration, all that stuff. Then Sean can do his PT. At that point is kind of my break time. I have to get him there and get him all situated, but then I can kind of do something else. So I usually bring like my knitting with me, or maybe a notebook to do a little work stuff while he's doing his exercises. But I'm not multitasking, right? I'm doing my thing while he's doing his thing. And then when he's done with his physical therapy session, we get back together and do each individual task that's involved to get from PT back to our house. And then I do the individual tasks that I need to do here. And, again, before Sean had the stroke, we were both overworking ourselves. We're both workaholics. We love doing what we do because we've made a career out of our creative stuff. But you still will burn out if you overwork yourself. Sean overworking himself might have contributed to the fact that he had a stroke. We actually don't know. There's no way to know. But we were just constantly going and constantly having to get on the next thing and just constantly having to multitask or try to spread ourselves way too thin. And I'm still spread way too thin because I'm overworked here in the stroke dimension, but I've changed my mindset about it a lot. And I'm no longer trying to multitask. And it is so refreshing of a mindset to just not even engage in multitasking at all. And I invite all of you guys to give this one a try. If you're a very busy person and you try to multitask all the time to try to get, everything done, I think if you try doing two things at once and like time yourself, and then try doing the same two things separately and time yourself, I think you get a better outcome and actually spend less time overall if you don't multitask. It's really, really hard for humans to pay attention to more than one thing at a time. And, if you're trying to split your attention, you're really not paying attention to any of the things very well. So no multitasking is really like the deal, and we have different ways that we refer to it. When you're chopping onions, chop the onions. When you're doing the dishes, do the dishes. Don't be trying to be doing something else while you're doing the dishes, right? If you're watching a movie, watch the movie. Don't be on your phone. Don't be doing other things at the same time. It's really simple, but man, it's changed a lot about how I operate and how I approach the world and my life and my projects and my work and everything. And it's been such a beneficial change for me and for Sean. It's been super key for him in his recovery because he has to monofocus. I mean, he's retraining his neurological connections in his brain. So he actually can't multitask at all. There's just no capability there. But it's really cool to watch him just zero in on something that he's specifically focusing on and do that task. And then we end that task and do the next one. And I'm a very organized person, so we can do this non-multitasking thing where it's like, okay, we line things up in priority order and figure it out, and then make sure we leave enough time in the schedule for everything, because again, be patient and go slow and let everything take the time that it takes, right? So those are the big three, and they're really simple, right? Really obvious. You're not in control. Be patient and let things take the time they take, and do one thing at a time to the fullest of your ability so that you're not splitting your attention. And I think that they go in really well with sort of Sean and my general life philosophy type of stuff. He actually wrote a list of rules, the Goblins rules for the game. They were published originally in Pork 29, which was the last issue of Pork that he did before he stopped doing the magazine. And I loved the rules so much, I actually had him make them into a poster. And we had this poster hanging up on the wall at every hospital that he stayed at over the course of the 3 months that he was in the hospital. And everyone, the nurses, the doctors, the technicians, every single person who read this poster was just like, wow, you guys have really got something there. And they loved it. And it just was a really cool way to kind of introduce them to who Sean was who Sean is, as a person, when he was in a state where he couldn't communicate. Remember, he couldn't talk the first 2 months that he was in the hospital. So it was really cool to have this poster on the wall with his ideas and his philosophy and approach to life. So I'll put a link down in the description to this poster on our shop where you can read the whole thing with all of the rules on it, because I think it's really valuable. The Goblins rules for the game is what it's called, but just rules for living. But then we can also add in the 3 additional rules that I've discovered here in the stroke dimension. And of course, the whole thing is a work in progress. We're nowhere near being out of the stroke dimension, and I'm positive I have lots more to learn here while I'm in the stroke dimension. And of course, as I crack open more of these little nuggets and discover more of these gems sort of hiding inside of this awful slog through a muddy of the stroke dimension, I will share them with you guys here because that's my whole mission, right? I figure if I can be a little bit more open about what's going on with me, with Sean, with our lives, and share that with everyone else out there and inspire somebody or help somebody or, help anyone to make a better choice in their life or somehow grow as a person, that's what I'm all about. So that's it for now. I'll be back in a few days with the Cinema Club Sunday Roundup. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks so much for watching my vlog.